Mhm.
So welcome, Cassandra. How are you?
Hi, Maggie. I'm very well, thank you. It's
It's
nice to be here chatting with you today.
yeah, it's great to have you. Well, tell us a little bit about your journey that led you into the work that you're doing today.
Oh, okay. So my journey really it goes back from what I'm working on today, and it really just begins back with my mum. So as a small child, and every step of my journey as a child to right now has really culminated in all my life's work. Yeah,
How
uh,
so?
in the sense, so I've been working with like doing energy mastery for as long as I can remember. Um, it was part of when I was a very young teenager, and I was very much into Tai Chi. It was my really first experience of, I guess, not really so much as understanding energy, but just really uh, going into some kind of spiritual relationship practice for myself, and and looking at it, looking at myself on a deeper level rather than just existing. Doing what other kids do in the playground and parks and things like that, but through my journey as a child, there's so many of us in the world that have had really traumatic childhoods, and I've had where I was separated from my mom as a baby, and was brought up by that typical archetype of the wicked evil stepmother. So uh, that really has been like the core of all of my work, because everything that I have been working through and around in order to bring my and to do sacred work in the world is going back to my core conditionings that have formed all those limiting beliefs and patterns and um, things that block me and stop me in my path. So everything goes back to that. And what I've really got to understand, and at the very core of the energy that I work with, is the unloved daughter. And and it's not just me, but there are so many unloved daughters on the planet, and it's absolutely um, a necessity to heal that part. Or it's not even that we can possibly heal it, but just really get connected to that. And so yeah, that takes me right back to my mother, and that separation and that gap that I'm always, no matter what I do, no matter what work I'm doing in the world or what I'm working on in my own spiritual evolution, there always seems to be that gap that nothing can fulfill it, that I haven't found yet. And I realize it's actually that maternal bonding, that, and I've even looked to like Mother Earth and Mother Mary to help me with that, and that helps me greatly, but there's still that longing for that maternal bonding. And so yeah, that it accelerates my work as into the unloved daughter, which is
So
quite beautiful.
you recognize that as the defining moment that really led you on this path, or was it more because I mean, obviously, if you were separated as a baby,
Mm,
you wouldn't have known it then, but was it more
no.
realizing that the stepmother was not what you needed and that there was something still missing?
Well, as a child, as a child, for me, it wasn't that I really knew anything was missing, because I didn't know what a mother was, because everyone was like, people who looked after me, we were either called auntie or grandmother or a different name, never knew the mother. Um, but as a child, it was, there's always this aloneness, because and the feeling of not being wanted or not belonging, because that is the way that you're made to feel, because of the stepmother's own conditioning, which is also what I've really just hit upon in the last couple of months, is the unloved woman, who she was possibly an unloved daughter as well. So without knowing and fully understanding what her childhood was like, but it's been passed on. And so for as a child, that's where all of I guess that really embedded, and it's super embedded, those hardcore belief systems that were created where you feel unworthy and really like you're in survival mode and in that scarcity and unwanted and not belonging and just so alone. And it's not like a poor me pity syndrome. It actually really is so real, and I've done so much work in releasing and healing and going into the trauma and the grief of it. But it is really hardwired. It's incredible how hardwired it is. So what I have developed for myself and how I work with clients is how to actually manage that, and that's through shadow work. Is like it's you can't deny that part of yourself. You can't deny that you have those limiting beliefs and that stuckness and scarcity. It is there, and what you can do is actually really get clear at what the triggers are and what is projected and what you're projecting, and actually have that part of yourself as your ally, and that then becomes integrated into your life rather than denying it and using it as, that pity and victim. It actually can strengthen you, and you can use it as a tool.
What's interesting is, just as you were talking, I had a similar experience growing up, but with my stepfather.
Mm-hmm.
Where my parents were divorced at a young age, when I was 4. And for some reason, my mom decided to move to Spain and take me with her. So I was separated from all my 4 brothers and sisters, my grandparents and my father, and just mom and I and one of my sisters in Spain. And then my mother fell in love with this man there. And he was verbally abusive all the time. And I was 9, 10, 11, 12, real formative years. And I didn't really think that it was still affecting me until just recently. It just started to bubble up over the last year as he was in a nursing home, and then my mother was having health issues, and all of a sudden it was on me to take care of him. And I thought, well, isn't this interesting?
It is.
That here he is, 94, withering away, and I'm 55, and I've got to step up and give to this man who in my mind left me with a conversation, very old conversation, that get lost. We don't want you around, because that's literally what he used to say to me all the time. Get lost.
Yeah. And it's painful, and it is painful. And as much as you can, get on with your life, and you have your own family, and you do lots of other things, that energy shows up, and it shows up perfectly at the right time.
It did, because right then, my mother really needed my help. My other siblings needed my help, and there was nobody else who could try and figure out where to put him in this nursing home, or what to do, or how to keep mom calm, because she was having heart issues. And I was willing to move him down to the town I live in and have him be in a nursing home nearby, so I could be the one to take care of him. And that's when everything bubbled up. And exactly what you said, I'm like, well, this is perfect. I need to handle this. I need to finish this. I need to get past this. And wow.
And you get to really face that shadow, right? You get to
remember physically in meditation, having tears streaming down my face, and having his name just pop up over and over, and then saying, what in the world is going on? Yeah. But that's exactly it. And it's like you said a minute ago too, it's not like those conversations disappear.
No, they don't.
But you do move and transition from the victim to being responsible, and realizing that even though I've handled this now and I feel so much lighter, it doesn't mean I'm not going to have that conversation creep back in.
Yeah, and it might not be anything to do with your dad. It could be something that you might even just a smell might activate it, or you might actually hear two people on a train having a conversation, and you get one word, and it triggers that energy to come forward to take another look. And each time you take a look at that energy, you get to go deeper with it, and then you get to go. And what's been happening for me, which I find, and it keeps going back. I really understand everybody has a relationship with a mum and father, and including males as well. They also have their own mother relationship. But I really focus on the daughter-mother relationship. So when you're talking about you had this stepfather who was abusive and telling you to get out, when you go back and you actually stand in the space of you and your mother's relationship right then and there, if your mother was really, really loving and caring for you, she would have you back, right? So I look at that. I really look at that relationship as much as the mother can say, I love you, and she shows affection to you, but to have your well-being compromised like that every single day with the man that she's chosen to be with, and keeping you uh, in that awful situation. I look at then um, that unloved daughter shows up with the mother relationship, and
Absolutely.
I think
Absolutely.
there's crucial healing in that. This and it's such a breakdown, but people don't really look at it like that, because they look at that perpetrator who is the father or the stepfather or something, but with the mother-daughter relationship, because it's like really our maternal connection with the mother and the grandmother and our great-grandmothers and the great-great-grandmothers. There's such a history of ancestral lineage of this pattern going through woman to woman. And I think this is what I really love working with. So it really opens up for some deep awareness.
Well, yeah, and you're exactly right, because for years, until I got past this phase here that I just described, for years, I was really angry with my parents, with my dad and my mother.
Of
My
course.
dad for letting my mom take me away to Europe and separate me from everybody, and thinking on that side, the father-daughter part, like, you don't want me either,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
then mad at my mother for standing by and allowing this man to verbally berate me and tear me down and say very inappropriate things to me. And just, but then something shifted. It was like, all of a sudden I saw my mother so differently. Like, she had like you had mentioned, that she had her own thing
Absolutely.
about, or she wouldn't have let it go on if she didn't have her own story around it.
Oh, absolutely. There's something that she's not able to actually stand up and have stand up for that justice and that love for the child. Her own inner child is wounded, and she's coming from that space on her own. um,
Yep. And it
yeah,
was great because it was that moment of actually seeing how human my own parents are.
yeah. And at that same time, you can actually look at them through your compassionate heart.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So, what exactly can you describe the tangible ways that you see that your life might have shifted and how you might have grown through this journey of yours?
How it has shifted.
How the
uh,
journey has shifted, or how you have shifted?
Well, I can say so when I'm talking to people in general, and this seems to be the common thing that many people would say to me, right, is, wow, you're doing so well. Like, I can't believe what an amazing, bright, happy, um, very well in connected, and like the inner beauty that I have that people say. And I'm like, I'm so grateful. And I love that people say this, and it's a common thing that they say, and it's like, well, you've come out of it really well. Right? Because most people who have gone through what you've gone through would be like, worst case suicidal, alcoholic, some in complete depression, not able to function. And for me, the one thing that I stand deeply grounded in, and that I really, really understand, and something that I really think saved my life as a young child, because I was suicidal as a teenager. And but there's always been this really, really strong guiding light, or some guidance, internal compass, whatever this guidance system was or is in me. I felt it as a very, very young child. And that's the thing that it wasn't that I held on to with hope or anything, because I never ever could see a future for myself as a child, because I was always about here and now, surviving the moment. Um, but definitely there is this guidance system. My internal compass is so completely strong, and my, whether it's my higher self, my soul, angels, you know, there is something that has kept guiding me, because it's not about me, it's about the healing of that feminine. And it's not just feminine in my community, it's a worldwide phenomenon. It's been going on since biblical times, right? It's that unloved woman.
So, what obstacles or internal fears did you have to overcome? I know you say
Well,
you had that guiding higher light, but I imagine, you know, like you said, you were suicidal as a teen. What had you overcome that?
I think you know, it's always been a struggle whenever, this is how I look at things. This something I learned at a very young age. I look at my life as, and this is probably because I was really interested in dowsing sticks in my teens, but you know how you can hold a pendulum, right? And the pendulum will swing. And so one thing that I really learned early is that the pendulum swings high, and then it'll swing back the other way. And I associated that with our highs and our lows in our life. So as far as the pendulum would swing and as high as you feel, as in, you know, you know how you're on some days where you're just flying, and you're just, everything's amazing and everything seems to be in sync, and you're just having the best day, and everything's ecstatic, and you're well connected, and everything's really beautifully sacred. And then within a nanosecond, you can be going back on the other end of the pendulum swing, hitting a real depression. And not so much as a depression as in you get depressed about everything, but it's the depression, like the densities, and they show up. And I think that's what really got me through, because as much as I would really hit and it would feel like you're rock bottom, like emotionally, and you have nothing left, that knowing that it's not even like the affirmation that, oh, you can only go up from here. It wasn't like that. I really understood on an energetic level that my pendulum's going to swing, and I'm here right now, and just sit and breathe. And breathing is the one thing that really got me through everything, because, and it still does to this day. And I think that's a lot to do with me going into doing Tai Chi and understanding the breath, and that there is so much power in that. And that is what gets me through those the low moments, and all the stuff shows up at that time, because all the unworthiness and all the wounds and the trauma and all of that stuff. But the breathing, it just really gets me anchored back into my body as a sacred human being. I can let go of the attachments to the stories, and just breathe and fill myself up with that.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, it's funny how just a simple 3 cleansing breaths will shift your entire mindset.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That someone asked me, one of my clients asked me, "You really believe in the breathing, don't you?" And I said, "Yep, I do. I really do see how you can transform yourself with just reconnecting." Or, like, I love the word you used, anchoring
Yeah.
yourself. Mm-hmm.
And the breath it can be very underestimated by so many people, you know, because we've got like so many people on the planet who are smoking, and a lot of people smoke because it relaxes them. But what do they do when they light up a cigarette? They will like inhale inhale so deeply. And it's like, what if you just didn't smoke the cigarette and you just inhale deeply, just the breath alone, right?
Right.
And it's that breath alone, but it's that, I guess, the attachment or even the addiction by that time to all the chemicals within that people are addicted to, but just that breath alone. It's that breath alone that really, really relaxes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Who do you think was the person who most influenced your life path, or was your greatest role model?
You're definitely my stepmother. Yeah. Um, yeah, being there, I really did have a Cinderella story because I had the evil stepmother, two stepsisters that were not as evil as my stepmother. One was, but the other one was still like, she was on and off evil. um, but my dad was always working away. He worked really hard, and I was the one that had to do all the chores, do everything, and yeah, and get abused and all of this stuff, and really just noticing who my stepmother was and how she was in the world and how she was with other people. I didn't want to be like that. I just did not want to be that person. It wasn't that I ever thought I would, but as a child, yeah, I really took it upon myself to do everything I could to be the best person I can, because I never wanted to be that. I never wanted to make people feel the way she made me feel. And so I really look at her and I really am grateful in that aspect where um, it was like a catalyzing person or thing to help me to be the best version of myself and to keep inquiring and never stop.
Yeah, it's great. It's great that's, most people think it's got to be some amazing person in public or private life that has been your biggest inspiration, but it's oftentimes the people that taught us the greatest lessons,
Yeah.
that are the best role models. And it's not always a positive thing.
Absolutely, and I feel, yeah, without her and without all of this deep inquiry into the unloved daughter syndrome, it really is huge, and I I really have to thank her for that,
Mhm.
because the energy keeps going back there. It keeps, like, when I trace the energy back to its origins, there it is.
Yep.
Well, it's actually not the full origin, because it's going back astrally for me, because I do have a lot. I've traced back to 6 mothers on my maternal side, and all the mothers on my maternal side have either died young, giving childbirth, or the children were very young and the mother has died, and or the children were removed from the mums. So there is this history within the family of the children being removed from the mothers. And so this is the very first generational cycle that both myself and my 2 sisters have actually been mothers to our children, like throughout their entire growing up phase,
Now, how
which has
old
been
are
really
your
beautiful.
children?
Oldest is 28 and the youngest is turning 20. So
Ah,
yeah,
okay. Yeah.
yeah,
It's great to break the cycle, isn't it?
absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. So I really feel like if when we look at our greatest achievements, and I think really because it's that embedded uh, energy in a cellular level, right, is very, very hard to shift. And when you can actually break a generational pattern like that, there's so much healing that has been done from that. And you're creating a new pathway for your own children to actually have more wholesome, integrated lives.
Right, right. I mean, and in the traditions that I study, it's karma, and how much karma is coming through that you're born with from inner generations and past generations, your grandparents, your great grandparents, bringing it forth, and then being able to look at it and choose, am I going to water the seeds of the old karma, or am I going to create new? So yeah, yeah. What suggestions do you have for anyone listening who really might be feeling stopped from living the life that they want to be living right now?
I would say go and sit in nature, just go and sit in nature, and you don't have to think about or connecting. You just go sit, because just being there, nature will connect with you, and nature will ground you and support you, and have its wonderful way with you. You don't need to know how and why. You just need to be in it, and just breathe. And just breathe in your body, and breathe it and take it really deep down into your pelvic floor. And in that way, it's almost like resetting. It's like the quickest reset that you can do. And as soon as you start feeling any kind of anxiousness and all of those things show up in your life that take you on a whirlwind out of your body, because really the reason why we get really over anxious and overwhelmed is because we're not really deeply anchored into our body and feeling safe, right? So if you go out in nature and you breathe and you take it really deep and you just get out of your head, and you just, because if you're breathing and focusing on your breathing, you can't think about anything, because you can't do the two things at once. And yeah, you just get really anchored into this body that your cosmic address, and you can just be in it and feel really safe. Like, it's about feeling really safe in your body. And once you feel really safe in your body, then you can really start being in the world and feeling a lot safer where you are.
Yeah, I love that. That's wonderful. I really like that. Where can people learn more about you, or how can they get in touch with you?
Well, I think on under the podcast, there may be a link. But my website address is shamanicpaintress.com. And you can also find me on Facebook, Cassandra Ryan. That's spelled CASSUNDRA RYAN. I have two names, so Cassandra Ryan and Cassandra Alex Ryan. So you can find me on Facebook under those names, and on Instagram, and on my website, and all have connections to get in touch with me.
Perfect.
And I'd
Perfect.
love to hear from anybody who's really really need some support with what they're going through, and they can really relate with the space I'm coming from.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you for offering your wisdom to all of us. So what is there another piece of advice you would give anyone listening to the Life Illuminated today?
As much as some people definitely feel very alone, it's quite a phenomenon on our planet, feeling alone. And sometimes it can be very hard actually coming to an understanding that we're not alone. But if you are in a place where you do feel really alone, and that loneliness and emptiness is really, really saturating your being, just do something that reaches out to somebody, whoever it is, whether it's pick up the phone and call someone, call an old friend or your son, your daughter, an uncle, an auntie, anybody. And even if it's somebody that you don't know, just pick up the phone or just go for a walk out the front and just say hello to a neighbor or something, but just connect with somebody when you're in that really space of just loneliness, because it's just about getting the ball rolling of getting connected with another being, because as much as we can feel alone, we're really not. There's like billions of people around, and there's billions of, so many natural insects, and whatever it is, you could just even go out to your back porch and just watch an ant for half an hour and get out of your head about your loneliness, and just look at how ant is in community. And it's like you can learn about things like that just to be connected. So just do something, take an action to get connected somehow, however big or small that is.
I love that. I love that. Well, I have thoroughly enjoyed our time today with you, Cassandra, and very much appreciate you taking the time with us.
Thank you so much. It's been so wonderful talking with you, Maggie.
Yeah, and I look forward to having you back sometime soon on the Life Illuminated podcast.
Oh, beautiful. I really look forward to that too. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.